Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Janai and this is Karmic Fixer Tarot. This is probably about my 10th take trying to start this video. I originally wanted this video to be a very light-hearted video. It's Friday evening. Is it Friday? No, it's Thursday. See, I'm wanting it to be Friday. I've had a lot on my plate this past week. Aside from tarot reading, I'm also an online tutor and, working with kids online. I want to find the right balance of, being a, you know, being an authority figure, but also sharing the joy of reading and whatnot with students. I want to create an environment that is conducive to learning. It's also conducive to practice. I'm working with students that the tutoring company that I work with refers to as striving readers, which is a good way to describe readers who might not be as confident in reading. Maybe they're a little timid, a little intimidated by reading. And it was something that I enjoy doing. But I find that sometimes, when I'm working with kids, I'm always wanting to know if I'm being authoritative enough. What's the right balance between being an authority figure versus being a mentor or whatnot. But the more I think about it, I think maybe I'm overthinking it. And I need to find the way to just have more fun with things, to be maybe a little less serious. I mean, obviously, tutoring students, helping them to become more confident readers is something that's important, that's very serious, but I also have to find the fun side. So I'm looking for ways to be a little less anxious, a little less high-strung, and just go with the flow a little bit more, and have more fun. And just thinking about that actually made me want to return to an idea that I had about cartomancy, an idea that I had about card reading. I'm using different types of cards and playing decks for cartomancy, and it made me think of using Uno cards. And I think this will be a great way to practice my divination, but to also practice in a way that's maybe a little unconventional, a little more fun. And I think I've come up with a system that I can use to incorporate Uno, or to use Uno to gain insight from spirit. So I'm going to try that now. So I'm going to give a little bit of a shuffle. And, see, my mic is a little late. I've been trying to do this for a little over an hour now. I'm not sure. I was in the right frame of mind, but then I wasn't. I was trying to set up my mic. As you'll notice, I guess the setup is slightly different. I've got my condenser mic instead of my earbuds, my Bluetooth earbuds with their built-in microphone. So I wanted to try something a little different. I hope the sound picks up all right. And so I'm going to give my cards a little bit of a shuffle. And I'm going to see what Spirit has to say to me about being a little more lighthearted, about having a little more fun. I think this will be a simple 3-card spread. And I'll see how this goes. Spirit, how do I have a little more fun? What do I need to know about being a little more lighthearted, being less high-strung? I really hope that sound doesn't pick up. I live with my brothers, and they're really noisy, and it gets on my nerves, and it's taking me out of my fun mindset. Spirit, I think I need a little more help here, because just like that, I got a little annoyed. I try not to be so annoyed, but, can be a little bit peevish. And I hate to be that. So I'm going to cut these cards here. These cards are moving all over. We'll see how this turns out. Let me pan down a little bit. We'll see how this turns out. If this doesn't turn out the way I need it to, let me put on my glasses. Here we go. All right. Spirit, how do I have more fun in life? What is some insight you can give me on going with the flow a little bit more? I'm sorry about the noise in the background. I really hope that's not picking up too loud. All of a sudden, everybody's awake. It's like 10:15 at night. The time when it should be the quietest. All of a sudden, everybody's making a bunch of noise. I'm sorry for my complaining. I guess it's really taking me out of the fun. So I need to get back into a fun mindset. All right, here we go. +4, wild card. I'll start explaining my system in a second. And another wild card. I guess maybe that's pretty apropos for a spread on being more lighthearted and having more fun. So let's see here. The +4, now I will preface it by saying that as far as playing Uno, I haven't been an avid Uno player. And in fact, the last time I played Uno was back in the late 90s, Latin Club, Rock Eagle, Georgia. Somebody brought an Uno deck. I'd never played Uno before, and I can't remember exactly what the play was, but I remember being really annoyed. So Uno is definitely one of those games that, emotions can run high. But anyway, the +4, I was thinking of, seeing this, of course, as a wild card. And I think about the 4. I think of that in terms of numerology, or I guess what the 4s represent in standard tarot. 4 representing stability or stagnation. So I see this 4 as maybe stability, And one thing that I was kind of going for, I was thinking that these cards, whenever I came up with something that was a wild, and I guess in standard Uno play, this +4 means that whoever draws has got to draw 4 more cards, of course. But in cartomancy, I'm going to look at the 4 as a stabilizing number. It could also be seen as stagnation. So maybe this could represent me being in a state of stagnation, but I need to move away from being stagnant, but maybe having a little more confidence and feeling stable enough to have fun. Now, the idea that I was going to go for is that depending on the other colors in the spread, I was going to read this as maybe following on to the predominant colors in the spread. Now, looking at the spread, the only color we have is red, and we'll get to that in a second. My initial ideas on that. But I think this represents stability. It represents maybe having a little more faith that I can let loose. Knowing that fun and letting loose doesn't necessarily have to mean chaos, but it can be, you can be safe. Okay, the wild card, I think I'm just going to take literally. This is a wild card. I think I'll look at the wild card as being open to, being spontaneous. And I think this will follow along on the +4. Being willing to be spontaneous and knowing that it's not going to be the end of the world. And in a general 3-card spread, there is the first card being something that I already know, and the second card being a new perspective, and the third card being an actionable step. So if this is something that I already know, knowing that it's safe to have fun. Maybe sometimes it doesn't feel so safe to let your hair down, but know that laughter is good for the soul. A merry heart does good like medicine if we're looking at biblical wisdom. So having more fun, allotting for fun, can be stabilizing. It can it can allow you to, it can just allow you to rest. It can allow you to, it can put you in a good place that's actually helpful, I think. And so I'm going to look at this 4 as a stabilizing thing to keep in mind. And the wild card, new perspective, being open to the spontaneous, knowing that you can improvise. At least I think that's what I would get from a card like this. Being open to improvisation, understanding that it'll be okay. You know, you don't necessarily have to know how everything's going to go. You don't necessarily have to be a stickler for control. You know, just be open to whatever life is presenting you with. Now, this 9, the way that I would read cards in the red suit for starters would be as Wands cards. I think, of course, the red card, the Wands cards are representative of passion, of creativity, representative of fire in a good way, representative of the fire signs in Standard Tarot. So I think the red suit as the Wands suit would be pretty appropriate. And 9 is a completion number. I think of 9 as kind of a harmony number. And when you think in terms of Standard Tarot, 9 is a card of completion. 9 is a card of fulfillment. It's harmonious, I think, with 6s and 3s. I think, 3, 6, 9, it's kind of a force multiplied sort of card. So we have the 9, the red 9. Oh, my goodness. I wonder how that's going to sound. Okay. The red 9. I think this is a card that represents, let me think about this for a little bit. I had something in mind for this one. Let me think. Okay, had to stop and think about this for a second. But I think the 9, the red 9, can represent fulfillment after hard work. It can represent taking the time to take stock of the work that you've done, and pressing forward. Being grateful for coming to the end of a cycle. It could be a cycle of very hard work. Maybe you've had some hard knocks, but it's all the more reason to find a way to have fun, find a way to, find things that you enjoy. Even in hardship, finding ways to enrich yourself. And I had to step away from this for just a moment. I'm really kind of struggling to be in the right mindset for this. I don't know. I might not even post this ultimately, but the idea of the 9, the red 9, maybe being reminiscent of the 9 of Wands. I think this is a card where you're allowed to take stock of how far you've come, take stock of the work that you've done. Congratulate yourself for doing the work that speaks to you, following your passion, following your heart, being creative, taking your creativity to its end. Or I don't know if I'm putting this the right way. I think this card allows you to, it's a reminder to don't allow yourself to be bogged down, to allow yourself moments to take stock of what you've done and allow yourself to let your hair down. It's kind of like a just dessert. I think this card is saying to see enjoying oneself, see being more lighthearted as a just dessert. You've reached a point where you've worked very hard. If you think about the traditional kind of Rider-Waite-Smith tarot card with the person standing among the wands, they're looking maybe a little bit beat up, but they're still standing. They still made it through this cycle of wands. They're seeing their creative goals, they're seeing their hard work, they're seeing their effort come to the end of a cycle, and they've made it through. And I think this card is a testament to being resilient, to being persistent, and to working hard. So I think this card is a reminder to be good to yourself, a reminder to not hesitate to congratulate yourself. You can continue to draw on your inner strength to, to reach the goals that you have. And I think you should have fun along the way. And with these cards being wild cards, which I would attribute to this red card, I think, allowing yourself a little bit of spontaneity in your creative work. Finding ways to make your life's work, more fun. Finding ways to remember what it is that draws you to your life's work. And don't forget to appreciate what it is that you do, even as you're having to be serious, even as your work might be important, or you've got a very specific task, or you're an essential worker, or, whatever it is you put your hand to do. Maybe it's something that started out as a hobby. Maybe it's something that started as a passion, and you've been able to carry it through to a career. Maybe a side hustle that turns into maybe a main hustle, maybe a business that you started based on a hobby or based on a service you were very passionate about providing to someone. Even if you're taking something that you're passionate about and turning it into your life's work, turning it into a career, a business, or whatnot, never lose sight of what it was that drew you to that work in the first place, and find ways to keep that in mind, and don't lose your sense of wonder, your sense of joy for what it is you do. And I know it's a little easier said than done, especially, and I'm experiencing that myself. I would like to turn tarot reading, cartomancy into something that can be a livelihood, but right now it's still a hobby that I'm learning, and I'm recording in my room, surrounded by, other people, watching their televisions really loud, and, that sort of thing, and not feeling, see, I'm rambling, and I'm actually losing sight of what it is I enjoy doing by being a little too much in my head, maybe focusing too much on what it is I maybe don't love right now. And maybe that's part of the reason why I have a little trouble finding fun. Sometimes we can be overwhelmed with the things that aren't so ideal, and we lose track of the things that are ideal. We lose track of maybe how much of a blessing it is to be able to do what it is that we enjoy doing for work, or we lose sight of the joy of building something, doing work that means something to us, whether or not it's making us a lot of money, or whether or not it's got its maybe crazy hours at night, or maybe it's got its downsides that can be a little overwhelming. We have to remember the thing that drew us to the work that we enjoy doing, and never lose sight of our passion, and accept that it's okay to let's see, I think I'm losing this interpretation a little bit, but yeah, I might have been speaking a little too long. So one thing I'm going to do that I've come to really enjoy doing is pulling a bottom of the deck card. So let's see what comes. I think I'm super distracted, and I don't know what it is. I think the background sounds of the people I live with, or I don't know why it's getting to me more right now, I guess, as I'm trying to study. But anyway, 3, we have the blue is a cups card in the way that I'm interpreting Uno. We have the blue cards, the cups, and the 3, I guess thinking about the 9, the 3 I consider a harmony card. And since this is the card at the bottom of the deck, I think this is a card that's at the heart of my query. And when I think of Three of Cups, I think of collaboration, I think of celebration. And in my heart of hearts, in which I think for a lot of other people, there's a wanting of camaraderie. You want to find your tribe. You want to collaborate with people. You want to celebrate with people. You want to live a celebratory life in your relationships and, also in the work you do. I think this being the blue card that I see as the Cups suite. The Cups tend to focus maybe on love or emotion, relationships, building with people. And I think in our heart of hearts, we want that camaraderie. We want stronger relationships, stronger bonds with our loved ones, with our community. And I think it's that love and those stronger bonds with our community that motivate us to do the work that we do. And sometimes when we lose sight of what it is we love, or maybe we're feeling a little disconnected, I think that can be a hindrance in finding joy, in finding the things in losing sight rather of what it is that we love to do, losing sight of what it is about our passion, our hobbies, our work that draws us in the first place. So I think this is an appropriate card for this particular pool. And I think what I have been doing is I might do a write-up, an essay when I've had maybe some time to mull over the spread some more. But yeah, I might not have been in the best mindset to attempt a spread that I think will be really fun, using Uno cards in a way that I was initially very excited about, but I don't know, maybe it's a little too late in the evening. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe I'm too much in my head here, which can happen. Maybe if I think about, let's see, if I mull over this 3, and let's see, I think maybe I'm seeing maybe the shadow side of the 3 of Cups, the 3 of blue, I guess maybe is what I would call in Uno. And the shadow side of that is maybe feeling isolated or maybe in excess of emotion. So maybe it's a thing where, I'm a little too in my head, or just a little too, I guess it's kind of a tidbit. Today I was having a little bit of a frustrating day with one of my students or whatnot, but I might add that to maybe the essay or whatnot that I write about this. So I think maybe this card is representing what I'm feeling right now. Even as I'm trying to do a lighthearted Uno-mancy reading, I'm still not quite in the mindset of fun, which, is a shame. So this will be something for me to think about. And just let me know what you think in the comments. Is Uno-mancy something that, I don't know if that's an actual word, but I think that's what I've been calling it, Uno-mancy. Have you attempted doing cartomancy with Uno cards yourself? If you have any insights on that, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comments. Or if you have a different read on a way that these cards could be interpreted, I'd love to hear your read on that too. And I do plan to do more reading with Uno cards, but hopefully I'll be not in a blue funk when I try it again. But yeah, if you made it this far to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. And if this is sort of your thing, I'd love to have you as a subscriber, so please consider subscribing. Or if you'd like to leave a thumbs up, I'd greatly appreciate that. Until next time, I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.